mention that, give me the elbows, so get some help with that. So just wanted to let you know that some housekeeping that we're going to encounter tonight. So thank you very much. So proceeding with that, for one other question, City Secretary, I don't have an individual for invocation. Is there one?
No, we don't have.
We don't have one.
Sure.
Thank you very much. All right. So with that, turning it over to our city manager to discuss the agenda items. Mr. Finch.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first item, 4A, consider a resolution authorizing the city manager to officially register the city of Duncanville for the designation of sister city with the city of, Mayor, you're going to have to help me.
That's okay.
Monteserole
di Spigliano,
Thank you.
otherwise called just M.
Through Italy, through Sister City International, at such date as may be appropriate, and coordinate the official recognition with the appropriate elected officials and representatives of Duncanville and M, providing the effective date. And the mayor actually discussed this at the last council meeting.
I did. And one of the key issues in this, it's in the staff report, but it's not included in the resolution itself, is the facilitation of this particular group of people hopefully can find a way to be done without creating a board or a commission. Let these people do what they need to do to create this cultural relationship with the sister city. Let it be, because we have a lot of citizens that participate in this that are not from the city of Duncanville. So we don't want to burden these people with the minutes. We don't want to have to create the liaison. We don't want to worry about the quorum and all this kind of stuff. This is a wonderful opportunity for a cultural exchange with the city of Monteserole di Spigliano, which they would like to do. And as I discussed at the last city council meeting, we ran into a little hiccup. I was hopeful to be able to make this formalization quite easy because Sister Cities International does permit it to be done virtually, but it has to be signed by the executives of each of the cities. So I talked to Giorgio, and I was willing to do it virtually, and that's when Giorgio came back and said, he's up for re-election. He can't sign anything until mid-June. So that's why city manager and I discussed the possibility, can we create a resolution? And that's what this is tonight. So it's basically setting this formal process or the formal relationship at a suspense date sometime in the future when we know we are going to have another mayor and possibly Monteserole di Spigliano could have a new mayor as well. So it kind of sets it up for the future. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So, so who are, you keep mentioning these people, so like who are the people that are actually participating and organizing the program?
Sister Cities International has the guidelines for it. It is up to the mayor of one city and the mayor of the other city to coordinate the execution of the document. And that document is a mutual signing of agreement, which there is a template that's created by the Sister Cities International.
So is there a group in citizens in the city of Duncanville?
Yes, there is. There's a large group of interested citizens. And when the time comes, that will be sent out to those individuals, letting them know by however the media can be used to let them know that we're upcoming on this particular ceremony. And the mayor of Monteserole di Spigliano will be doing the same thing. So it's a very wide open public thing.
And these are representatives of the city of Duncanville.
And other cities. Anybody who has participated in this cultural exchange and who wishes to participate in the future is invited to the signing ceremony. So when you say representatives, we have many, many people. The last group that went over, Councilmember Cherry Brown was in that group. My spouse was in that group, but there were over 20 people, not all from the city of Duncanville.
I guess that's kind of my question is, there's a cultural exchange that takes place when we send a delegation to Italy. They send a delegation over here. Who decides who that delegation is?
They decide themselves by volunteering, wanting to go and pay for it 100% by themselves.
It's not out of the citizens' pocket.
There's no taxpayer money involved whatsoever.
It's not out of the city's pocket. It's out of whoever goes.
And I noticed that there wasn't a budget.
That's exactly right. Because there is none. Yeah.
With the Sister Cities organization, that's Sister Cities International, and that there is a membership that's required for that. So
yes.
So There's no budget required on that part?
It's like $60. But when it comes time to do something like that, I've got the entire book that identifies the tuition for the membership for that. See, interestingly, that I thought that document right there made us official. I don't know if you ever read that one, but that's it. That's the one that was signed eons ago. But when I read the book from his Sister Cities International, we are not officially recognized. And I think it would do our city good to have that formal recognition with Sister Cities International. It's a very strong thing. If you go to sistercitiesinternational.org and you can see the member cities, it's immense. I mean, it's all over the world. And to put Duncanville on that world map, I think, would be to our benefit.
Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out, so the action we're taking tonight, what's the result of that action again?
It's setting the city manager up with a suspense date sometime after June, when we know who the mayor of Montesorolo de Spigliano is going to be. City manager will then reinitiate the letter that I wrote to Mayor Giorgio Alberone, setting this thing up in the first place. So that's all documented. I think you have copies of that as well. So it would be reinitiating the signing ceremony to create the formal recognition of each city. Okay? You're still pondering.
So, and this is, I support this, by the way. I do support. And I saw it was all the way back in '97 when they reached out to the city of Duncanville. I imagine things are quite a bit different than. I did look up the program online and see some of the reasons why some cities select others. And I guess in my mind, I'm thinking about the demographics in Duncanville were different than if would it be worth doing some research to look to see if there might be other cities that might be closer to us now and talk about cultural exchanges and so I'm thinking about that, but also did some research. At the time, another sister city was the commission was repealed, and I understand why that was. And in the language it said that at the time the council recognized that the program and the goals that were accomplished could be accomplished outside the official overview of the city and involvement of the city. And so I guess is that still true now? And is it necessary to have the official designation?
Well, the attestation of the formal designation, I think, is strong for the city to be able to say we are officially recognized by Sister City International. And the manner in which the visits are conducted, I know that there's individuals here in this room, not only those that participated in the last visit, but when they came over in 1920, when did they come over here? 2020? 19, I'm not sure. 2019, maybe. The mayor of Montesorolo de Spigliano stayed with us at our house. And so that kind of exchange, we begin to talk about how do you run your city? How does the government in Italy operate? How does the government in the Hague was questioning how do we operate? What's your city council like? How do you get elected? So there was that interchange instantaneously in terms of us understanding how we govern as mayors in a foreign country and domestically. And then we started talking about economic development and in terms of cultural exchange, and we talked about education, how their school systems operate, how our school systems operate, and then other people that were involved started interfacing and say, well, here's my experience, and they find other people, because they were like, what, 25?
And they took us every day to different businesses that they had. So it was a rich experience.
Yeah, and by the same token, we take them around to our area, and not just within our city, because when they came here, we took them to Arlington and showed them the stadium there and took them out to dinner, and it was really, it's almost like having, I guess, when an exchange student comes to experience what it's like in America. When they send 25 people at their own expense to come experience America, we reciprocate by sending whoever would like to go and experience Italy itself in the small town. So it's it's a rich experience. It is a very, very rich experience.
Well, thank you for that. I'm probably taking too much time on this.
No, it's fine.
If there were an opportunity to do some more research to see if there are ways that we can improve our participation in this program. Notice that their population is about 1,200 people. We're about 40,000, over 40,000 now. Again, the demographics are different now. Maybe there's some other opportunities for other cities that we might
Well,
consider.
if you look at the booklet from Sister Cities International, some cities have more than one sister city. Some of them have 4 and 5. I think Austin has 5 sister cities. So it's quite possible if any research wants to be done to expand this, to look at other cities, as you said, more comparable to maybe our demographics. It'd be fine to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
He pretty much asked the question I was going to ask.
Mr. Finch.
Okay, excuse me, item 4B. Council to consider a resolution approving an agreement with Matrix Consulting Group to conduct a public safety operational analysis for police and fire with an expenditure amount not to exceed $134,900, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents required for such agreement and establish an effective date. So I know we talked about this at the March meeting, and ACM Brown has a little bit more information to share with you.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Mr. Finch indicated, staff is requesting Council to consider a resolution approving an agreement with Matrix Consulting Group for our public safety departments. If you recall, back on March the 19th, Mr. Richard Bradley had one of his representatives come and brief Council on this particular issue. And what we are hoping to do is evaluate both of our public safety departments. And some of the things that we hope to accomplish is looking at our current staffing needs for all the functions to handle law enforcement efficiently. We're looking at future growth. Do we need to increase staffing within the departments? Identify areas of improvement, making sure that we are serving our community to the best of our abilities. And also we'll be looking at the fire department as well, just to ensure that these same things are being evaluated. We believe that it is a good thing for our city, and we always want to ensure that we are serving our citizens to the best of our ability. And we're hoping that once this is completed, we'll have some direction on which way to go.
Very good, thank you. Yes, good.
Unfortunately, this is why I normally print things out. My internet isn't working to pull up. Is this the one that was negative 41,000 after the encumbrance? Do we know?
That's the one you were talking about, yes.
Yes.
So, however, you met our project manager earlier. She's telling me that she doesn't think that we're going to end up using all of the money that we had allocated to Barry Dunn for the Intergov implementation. It's the same budget line.
Okay.
And so, Ms. Ote, oh, there she is. When and I were talking earlier, she may have something more to add, but I'm not so sure that we're actually going to need an additional budget adjustment.
Okay, so that's what I was asking, because normally when after the encumbrance it shows a negative, there's some type of line about an amendment coming back without budget, and I didn't see anything in there. So that was why I was asking the question.
Good question.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
We're still suffering with IT issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Anything else? Good?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Mr. Finch.
Okay, 4C, consider a resolution approving a contract with Witham, Smith & Brown, expenditure amount not to exceed $80,000. And I believe ACM Brown, this was the audit that was started actually when you were ICM Brown. And last year, I think council is very familiar with this, but we're happy to answer any questions. Okay, 4D, consider an ordinance, I'm sorry.
I'd like to make just a quick comment. On the other agenda item, it gives a nice summary, and this one, it's kind of like, well, what exactly is this? Where you had to dig down into it. So,
The staff packet, all, yeah, the detail, yeah.
yeah, so it's in there, but just for consistency, just a suggestion.
Sure. But I think I think it's fair to say now, because the council voted to release the audit publicly, it's part of the independent audit and the information that was shared that's on the website. Okay. 4G, consider an ordinance amending the FY 23-24 budget by appropriating fleet replacement fund and amending expenditures for fleet replacements. And so today our budget administrator is here to help answer any questions on that.
Any questions? Oh, Zena, thank you.
Okay.
I did have one. So, this is the replacement fund that we spoke about earlier. Could you just kind of brief, what we discussed about the question I had regarding the budget on this?
Absolutely. So just to give you a brief on how we do the fleet replacement fund. So each department does contributions in this fund to fund future replacement needs. And so in the staff report, I did list out all of the various vehicles that you as a council have already approved. And we have an outstanding list of vehicles that still need to be replaced, and we're prioritizing what those critical replacements are. So doing a budget amendment to cover another vehicle that's coming for you tonight later in the agenda, as well as the future replacements that we need to make for the rest of this fiscal year.
And thank you for being so detailed in the staff report. I appreciate that.
Just a
Contreras.
quick follow-up, and I may be mixing up items here, but the rest of that, the needs that we have, is that the 25 vehicles, additional vehicles that may be coming for us?
25 is just the count that I've identified that were due for replacement or were scheduled to be replaced in this fiscal year. So it's not going to be likely that we're able to do all 25, as we're going to have to prioritize that list. But that's
Those 25 will be coming to us at some point, or
Some
some
point.
number.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Moving on. 4E, consider a resolution authorizing the award of RFP 24-0015 Oriole Boulevard sidewalk improvements to Mecca Construction through the city's competitive bid process for sidewalk improvements on Oriole Boulevard with a contract amount of $480,834 and additional appropriation of $48,783 to the project contingency for a total amount not to exceed $536,617. So we do have Assistant Director of Public Works, Matt Bryan is here. I also asked Ms. Ote to help us with this one because it's new for both Matt and myself, and I believe this also includes CDBG funds, right, that you've been working on.
Yes, Mr. Contreras.
Just real quick, I see that this extends over I-20. So I'm assuming that the I-20 walkway that is.
Proposed.
I thought you were going to be excited because didn't you just ask me this?
Oh,
the
yeah.
other night?
I'm
Boom, it's on the agenda, so.
I'm excited, but I would assume that that's going to be improved, not only for convenience, but also it's very unsafe to walk across it. It's very much higher above the road surface, I believe. Is that correct? Than typical drop off from a curb.
Yes, currently, but this does not entail a walk bridge. This is sidewalk along the existing bridge.
Right,
Yes,
but just briefly, could you tell me how those are going to be improved? Because I've walked across it, and if you have a mother with children walking across that, one step off that curb and you're into the street. It'll be quick.
So the grading and the final grading will be addressed, and that'll be part of the design. This is also going to focus on the ADA regulation for all the ramps and stuff, so that it's safer to cross there as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Finch.
4F, consider resolution authorizing agreement with Environmental Group Southwest for grease and odor bioremediation products to be a sole source procurement for a 1-year term with the option to renew for up to 4 additional 1-year terms for a total contract amount not to exceed $125,000 over 5 years, subject to exercise of contract renewal and city council appropriation. Assistant Director of Public Works, Matt Bryan, is here answering questions.
Mr. Contreras.
Once again, is this a product that I know some years back you checked small aging sewer line on Woodhaven, and that one was pretty packed with grease.
Yes.
I think it was a 4-inch line.
I believe it was 6. Now, there
6
might have been
inch?
some segments of 4, but it's primarily 6.
Okay, but it had shrunk down considerably because of the grease.
Correct.
Is this a product that you use to break that grease loose?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so is this done on a regular basis where we have undersized drainage pipes that are subject to getting clogged because of grease, household grease?
So this is just not drainage, this is just sanitary sewer, but yes, we identify areas of town that are heavy grease buildup,
Mhm.
and we do monthly and quarterly injections of this to get rid of that and get it out of the system.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
One other side comment to that, Mr. Contreras, is it's mentioned in the staff briefing that this affects the SSF, the storm sewer system overflow, which we have been told in the past, and to our benefit as a city, that we've been told by Public Works that we are one of the few cities that actively report the storm sewer system overflows. Some people jockey those numbers so they don't have to go to TCEQ, and those numbers are modified. This city does not do that. We are accurate when we have a system overflow. We report it right down to the nth degree. But what this will do in keeping these systems clear from blockage is making sure that we continue to be very accurate in what we report. So it's to our benefit and advantage to be very beneficial with what we do with this stuff. Yeah, that's your proper back to that.
And Mayor, I would like to piggyback on what you said, because when we first got on this council, Duncanville was considered one of the highest in the nations for sanitary.
And that's where we started asking
sewer
the
overflows,
question.
And it's because we were reporting it, so thank you for being ethical on that. But the thing I want to say is, because we have been working on our infrastructure, and because we have been taking care of things, we've had very, very few since then. So again, thank you and a tribute for what the public works does.
Going on what Mr. McBurnett is saying, that we were started looking at these numbers like, why are we so bad?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is we're not. We're just very accurate in what we do. So that's how this came up. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Mr. Finch.
Okay, 4G, consider resolution awarding a bid and authorizing a cooperative purchase agreement with PERCO for the pavement and crack and joint sealing services through City of Grand Prairie contract in an estimated expenditure amount of $150,000. And again, Assistant Director of Public Works, Matt Frank, is here.
I was just noting that, yes, some of these are in District 5.
Somewhere too.
I know, yeah, it's pretty widespread. Mr. Finch.
4H, consider a resolution awarding RFP 240016 traffic operations, construction, and maintenance services to Unix LLC, the city's competitive proposal process for traffic infrastructure construction and maintenance services, authorizing a contract for a 3-year term with the option to renew up to 3 additional 1-year terms. Total contract amount not to exceed $3,576,505 over 6 years, subject to the exercise contract renewal with City Council appropriation. And Assistant Director of Public Works, Matt Bryant.
So this one, as I read it, Unix used to be Siemens. Siemens is the company we used to contract with, and basically, Unix is the only firm that responded to the solicitation.
That's correct. That's correct.
So while it doesn't say sole source, it was sole source in terms of we had no options on this one. And looking at the 5-year term on this, we've talked about this. This is a big number, it's sticker shock, but it encompasses a 5-year term in terms of what we're able to do. And so that helps with procurement, with what Mr. Brock does and what the city manager does for future uses. Yeah. Any comments? Sir, thank you.
Okay, 4I, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of a 2024 Ford F-550 brush fighter small brush truck from Daco Fire Equipment through by-board cooperative purchasing agreement in an expenditure amount of $236,789, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents, providing for an effective date. I believe that Interim Fire Chief Craig Chase briefed us at the last council meeting on this, and he's here, so there he is, to answer any questions.
Any questions? No. Thank you.
4J, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 vehicles that will be used in support of the Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division with an amount not to exceed $105,000. Interim Police Chief Stockton.
Yes.
Any questions?
Any questions? Good.
With the continuous purchasing of vehicles, and I understand why and the reasoning behind it, do we have a maintenance program in place on how we maintain the vehicles and not always needing to purchase. And I know some of them are due to aging, and we've had them for a while. The term has reached. But what is our maintenance program? Can you address that?
So,
That's very
Matt,
good.
coming in, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, so we have our central garage that does that, and I've been working very closely with Assistant Director of Public Works, Matt Bryant, to really see what's going on in the central garage, and I know he's created a whole new list and a tracking mechanism and working with the central garage to really make that run as efficiently as possible, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chief, but.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. So, yes, there's a lot more in-house work that we need to be taking care of. Something else to consider is, especially when it comes to police vehicles and fire vehicles, it's not so much the miles as it is the hours on the engine. So that's something that's considered too when we come to you with these replacements.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? All right. That concludes that particular portion. Moving on to City Council calendar. City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. For April, just a few highlights. On April 25th is the Light of Hope, and that's at Lakeside Park. For May, we have May 2nd, which is National Day of Prayer, and May 3rd, which is the fire station grand opening at the new fire station, and it is at 2 p.m. And for June, we have June 15th, which is the Cedar Hill Juneteenth celebration. That's going to be on June 15th, and that's all I have.
June. All right. Moving into briefings and presentations, we have a briefing presentation on boards and commissions update on data. Is that your secretary?
Yes, sir. Okay. For boards and commission update, I included the board and commissions list of all of our boards, the number of members, the term length, and the vacancies. And that was included in the packet. Councilmember Gooden presented some ideas on communication with boards, as in quarterly updates from the chair or the president of the board, and in-person update once a year from the chair or president of the board. As far as recruiting, we'll start advertising in the next edition of the Champion newsletter. We've already had that set up. We will also be advertising for applications from April 29th through June 28th to give about 2 months for applications, and it'll also be after the runoff election, which is on the 15th. That'll give us the month of July to put our books together, get it to you guys early, and then schedule everything. So all of the applications and everything will be there. We're working on our online application. The online application will also add some ideas as well, is to have a QR code, and have it on stands at the senior center, the recreation center, and the library, that they can just click on the QR code if they're interested in getting more information about boards and commissions, and if they want to apply. So you could apply online as well. We're working currently on a boards and commissions fair. We hope to have that done and possibly during that time as well, just for all the board members and liaisons to come in, and if people have questions to ask about a particular board, we'll be able to provide that for them as well. And also, she also submitted possible options for interviewing for vacancies. One is the council interview 30 minutes before a meeting, or the liaisons interview candidates and provide recommendations. And myself have a couple of others that are, a lot of these boards have 7 members. We have 7 members on council. If each person would nominate people from their own district, or possibly from their own district, it would give us a wider pool of applicants that would be across the city. Of course, the mayor and at-large could nominate from anybody, but anyone can nominate from any board here. There are some boards that that would not apply to, such as Civil Service Commission, Audit Committee, and the Regional Animal Shelter Board. But the others have 7 members. That would be 1 per applicant. That also gives some accountability as far as attendance, because if a council member or the mayor is nominating a person for a board, they would want to represent them well. So that kind of cuts down on the attendance issue. And what I've experienced in the past is people will resign before they would get to the point where we would contact the council member or their representative and let them know that the person they've nominated has some attendance issues. So it kind of gets things moving a little bit faster with the board. There are a lot of other options for interviewing in between, but council would still have the final say. They're just making nominations. They would still come to the city council for approval the same way we do now. It's just the interview process would be a little bit more refined and condensed, especially when we have vacancies such as what we have now. We wouldn't have to wait till a full council to do interviews.
And those that already have pending, they're gonna go in this next school.
Correct.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I sent an email, I'm speaking with a citizen who volunteered, and he said, I'd really like to be on the Board of Adjustments.
Yes.
And I sent an email to Mr. Finch, I said, I think I
Yes, you
copied
sent
you
it
on
to
that
me
one.
as well. Yes.
And so I gave him the links to our website for the online application. I know that the last time we had Board and Commission interviews, we had some comments about the differentiation between a renewal and a new application. Now, quite honestly, when I went through the navigation of clicking him through to the application, I didn't inspect it quite closely to find out if do we have 2 versions out there, or is it just that 1 version?
Currently, we have 2. One is for incumbents, which is a renewal, and one is for new applicants. But with our online application, you would get to say whether you're an incumbent or you're new, and it would just populate different fields.
Okay.
So to make it easier for everyone, instead of them having to go out, print a PDF, of course, you can fill it out, but you still have to print it and still have to bring it in. This online application, you would be able to just submit it online. And it would send the application to me via email and to Karen as well, and the city secretary.
Very good, that was good.
So in looking at the boards and commissions printout that you provided, thank you so much. I see that a lot of these, except for one, the number of vacancies does not jeopardize the board or the commission being able to meet and make quorum. So like you have one where it's a vacancy, but you have 7 members. So that wouldn't jeopardize them being able to meet or make quorum. Can we kind of discuss what are our liaisons doing to help encourage participation in their meetings and assuring that we can at least get consistent meetings going and not delaying them any further because of lack of quorum?
So, Councilmember Gooden, great question. So, I asked Nathan to be here this evening and talk a little bit about P&Z. I just want to touch on the Duncanville Community Economic Development Corporation is just a little bit different because it's a corporation. The council does get to appoint the members of the board, but their bylaws require them to be selected by specific sectors. So we'd have to look at that very closely. So right now, since I'm the de facto economic development person, so I am the liaison to that board, I'm having a lot of communication with them, and I'm finding that they're very engaged and they appreciate the communication and really the relationship, the things that we've talked about going back and forth between the council and them. But Nathan, do you want to share some of the stuff relative to the Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustment review?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Nathan Warren, Director of Planning and Zoning. So the Planning and Zoning Commission, we do send out email notification to the commissioners, notifying them of upcoming meetings, giving them information about the meetings, package information. It's not atypical from the information you get from your case reports for council meetings. So we are in contact with the commissioners ahead of time, and unfortunately, these last 2 meetings we were unable to make quorum. the first time we weren't able to meet quorum 2 months ago, we had 3 excused absences, and then our 4th excused absence came at 6 p.m. Before our 7 p.m. start time, which is unfortunate to get it at such a late hour. But I guess things come up, and then we had another unfortunate event where we had a projected quorum and then an unexcused absence, where we were unable to meet quorum on the next time. So we are having a special meeting held to accommodate that missing 2 meetings in a row. So that's one of the things that we did this upcoming cycle to expedite the process. But there is constant communication with the commissioners and also with the planning and the zoning board of adjustments. A very similar process. I'll stand for questions.
But it's true you have a standard set meeting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we have a
So
calendar.
everyone should know, hey, we meet on this day.
Absolutely. So we do vote and have a set calendar that is set, and there's an expectation of a meeting occurring. But in addition to that, there is constant notification and communication with the commissioners of planning and zoning, and also the members of the zoning board of adjustment.
That's good.
Is it possible for council to receive regular updates regarding if a meeting was canceled and the reason why it was canceled? Like I said earlier, we are responsible for the boards and commissions and things like planning and zoning, DC, EDC. Those are pretty much vital to what we need to do as council. And I do understand the special circumstances, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under any bus. It's just that I'm concerned about, I don't know when we're having meetings, when we're not. Like I said, that night, there were about 20 people who showed up and was expecting to hear their item, and it didn't proceed forward because of the lack of meeting. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I would just like for us to be able to have continuous communication about when they're meeting, when they're not meeting, what was the reason for not meeting, and then until we're able to start interviewing, I would like to ask my colleagues if we can consider how can we keep the boards full and not find ourselves in 18 vacancies. And it's like you brought up last time, city manager, it's because we currently do annual interviews, and if there's some way that we can interview more, I would be interested in what my colleagues would have to say about it.
Mr. Coons.
So, first of all, I support getting, at least when they don't meet, so a couple of those meetings, I happen to be someone who wanted to go to the meeting and got there and was canceled for whatever reason. But for the most part, when they're meetings and they don't meet, we don't know that they didn't meet. And then at some point during the year, we get a report that says 5 meetings were canceled or whatever that is, and we're in retrospect trying to figure out what happened. So I would be in support of getting, just when they don't meet, getting some kind of email or something. The liaison emails the city secretary, says we didn't meet, here's why, and then the city secretary forwards that to us as a council. So just so we're aware when it happens. And something else that you were saying. Yeah, so there's nothing preventing us from, if we wanted to have, I don't know how many applicants we have now, but I know there's some pending applications.
Yes, we only have 4 right now.
So if we wanted to add to our next agenda and say we're going to add an extra 30 minutes here or there to do interviews, is there anything stopping us from doing that?
In fact, I was thinking the same thing, that depending on the length of the meeting agenda, if there's like 3 or 4, just go ahead and do those. Instead of setting aside a special meeting just to do board and commission interviews, let's go ahead and tackle them when we can. And that would expedite the process and be able to bring people on quicker as well. Sure. Yeah, Mr. Contreras.
Well, if you're still feeling questions, I'm getting into a different part of this, so.
Go ahead.
Well, mine is just to say that, I think everybody here understands that the role of a liaison is challenging. You've got a full-time job that you do, and you have to incorporate into your days before a meeting, whole processes from beginning to end to have hopefully a quorum and you can conduct your meeting. The second part to that is what you do as a liaison during the meetings, and it varies from board to board what your responsibilities are. I think it'd be a good idea to talk about that one day. Not that I think that anybody's doing a job that isn't being well done right now, but we have to have a clear understanding. For instance, as a Board of Adjustment, and is the building official currently the liaison?
No, not currently.
Okay. I was a liaison for a time. It served a good purpose because I was kind of an expert witness, but I had to change hats. I had to make sure that everybody in there, including the people with the appeal, understood I'm not answering a question, a technical question as a building official. I'm not acting as a liaison right now, okay? When you're acting as a liaison, as you know, you're almost a parliamentarian. Not to say Nathan performed magic, getting people back on track, and sometimes that's the most challenging job, is keeping the board where they need to be without getting too involved. I think the attorney will agree, sometimes they will follow the lead of the liaison if they don't know the answer because it sounds like you're the resident expert. So you have to, it's a balancing act. So what I'm saying is that we should become familiar with the roles of the liaisons in terms of the responsibilities in processing all the way up to arranging the meeting, and then during the meeting what their roles are. And again, it varies from board to board. Some are consistent, some are unique to that board as to what the liaison's responsibilities are and how much weighs on that person during the meeting. So I just want to be clear on that from my own experience, that I think it'd be helpful for us to understand that. So when meetings are canceled or we hear something about a meeting, we can understand a little bit better about how we got to wherever the issue is.
That's good.
To that point, I think we sometimes neglect the fact that we do have chairs, and chairs are either they're referred to as presidents. I was a chair on one of the boards, and I know that when you have an active participatory chair, you have more of attendance, such as other commissions, Parks and Rec Commission, they have very active chairs. Arts Commission have very active chairs. When we can empower the chair to possibly take some of that, absorb some of that responsibility off of the liaison, I think that would be beneficial as well.
And that's a great observation because that does happen from time to time.
The commissioners themselves choose their chair.
Mm-hmm.
Possibility could be, along those lines, is that the selection of the chair could be with the council. Knowing who that person is based on their interviews and their activity, their desire. Just something to think about, not to make it policy, doesn't have to be put in black and white, but something to think about in terms of your comment was good, and the participatory action of somebody who really wants to be involved. Think about the appointment of the chair, not just a person to the board commission itself. Could be something to think about. Okay. Any other comments?
So I think,
Mr.
so
Coates?
in addition to that, I think one of the suggestions was that we receive some kind of either quarterly or biannual, but some kind of report from the chair or president about what, the activity of that board or commission. So again, that way we somehow maintain some kind of connection to that board or commission through that chair or president, and they're also again motivated, right, to be active and therefore to get their members active as well. So just some kind of, whether again if it's just an email that we get, twice a year, 4 times a year, about their activity.
So Mayor, I'm gonna take it a step further, because I think relationships are everything. And so I'm hearing us say what we, what we expect from them. And then Councilmember Gooden said about the, the turnover, how do we, I think we can try to be more supportive, because I know one of the challenges I've asked some people, it's like we meet, we come together with whatever that may be, and then it gets in front of the in group and it's knocked down. And I understand everything is not going to be able to go forward, but even with us, maybe reaching out to whoever the liaison is, whoever the chair is, as council members, and saying how can we support you? I think could maybe be helpful as well.
I'm going to say something carefully in response to that. And it only applies regrettably to myself.
Mm-hmm.
That when I choose to go to a board or commission meeting, my presence is intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
So while there's this great opportunity for a council member to show, I'm here to support you, I'm here to be involved with you, I like seeing what you're doing, blah, 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 great job, pat on the back. The other side of it is you never know the temperament and the persona of the individual saying, oh boy, look who's here, I'm just gonna shut up tonight. And so that happens. So there's this fine balancing act. It's all about relationships.
And actually, I mean, if a phone call or email, it doesn't
So-
have to be a show up at the meeting.
Yeah, so showing up, it's kind of like, let your hair down, be a little informal. And say, hey, I'm here, I'm glad to hear, I'm here to support you, and don't worry about me, I'm just here because I'm glad to be here. That type of introduction for yourself to the members of the board of commission can bring a whole different atmosphere. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes it can contribute to participation, and then think, well, shoot, council member so-and-so showed up last time, I'm gonna be sure and show up this time, because he or she might show up again. So there's this, you never know. I mean, there's no way to roll this one to say your participation as a council member is gonna be positive or detrimental to what goes happen. But that's engaging. Show up, try it, see how it goes, and then you'll know. Yeah, it's a great point. And here again, yeah, like what else have we got to do? But we are a governing body, and this was very careful in terms of what is a council. We govern the body of the city council that governs the city, not operates the city. Mm-hmm. So it's that fine line of governance. We're governing, we chose you to be on a board of commission, so therefore my presence is to enforce and to encourage you for what you're doing as a volunteer for our city to serve. Okay. Anything else?
Do we need to provide any direction? Is there any ambiguity in what we said tonight? Do you need us to provide you anything?
I made a lot of notes, so we'll have some conversations internally with regard to communication. I didn't hear clear direction on whether or not you're gonna meet more frequently or consider appointing people more frequently than once a year, or, the mayor had suggested maybe adding stuff to the next meeting, but I didn't hear from the rest of the council if that's what you want.
Jeremy, I think Jeremy and I have got this. It's a judgment call based on the length of a particular agenda, based on the number of applicants we have. We'll leave it up to y'all to decide, can we add interviews to a particular agenda? And that's going to be a professional judgment call. If we can, great. If not, that's another thing coming too. I think, is that enough direction in terms of what we would like to see done? Yeah.
Yes.
As the opportunity presents itself, let's get the interviews done as quickly as possible.
Can we anticipate receiving emails, notifications when meetings are missed?
Yeah, but I don't know in what format. Let me work with staff first to figure that out, and then I'll share that with you. I can always throw something in the AR for right now, and then let us figure that out. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, I was thinking, just a simple, from the liaison,
Sure.
meeting was canceled, here's why, to the city secretary, and that's just what it does. We need to be too elaborate.
Mr.
Mayor,
McBride.
I'd like to add a comment, because Mr. Finch, before you're here, and before Ms. Taylor was here, we've had a continual change, and there's things that have fallen in the gaps through the changes. Now, I've seen what Ms. Taylor's kind of proposed and put together, and I appreciate the work She's been in that, but we just had so much transition that things weren't good for a while. So thank you.
Yeah, the amount of detail being provided to us is really good. Mr. Redcross, yes, sir.
Yeah, I love what I'm hearing, and I'd like to take it a step further, maybe even before some town halls or, you know, any other kind of, when we meet, if there's several or you feel like there's enough, 2 or 3, then I would say let's schedule if we can. Anytime we get an opportunity to meet, just take advantage, because these folks, we got to get them when they apply, because we lose them if they don't. Thank you.
Anything else? The toughest subject on boards and commissions is excused absences. And this is it's hard to say, even though they have submitted an excused absence, cancel P&Z when there's 7 SUPs on the agenda. It's hard to say in terms of a judgment call, is this really an excused absence? And that's what's really the most difficult thing for a liaison to have to determine. So I think this is here, comes across in terms of communicating to the boards and commissions that this is important to us as a council, and do everything you can to make a publicized meeting. And that's enough said. Do everything you can. Set aside other things. Make it a priority. It's on your schedule. You volunteered to do it. Put other things aside. Make this a number one priority, because a lot of people are depending on your presence, especially with P&Z, board adjustments, cyber, those kinds of things. Very, very important.
Sorry, but I have one
Yes, sir.
quick question. So in regards to the Open Meetings Act, if a meeting's scheduled for one location and for whatever reasons, emergency change, there's a flood in the building, a pipe burst or something, they have to relocate, is it sufficient to post on the doors when people show up for that meeting to say, hey, the meeting's over here?
If there was a true emergency, the building was flooded, I would allow that. If the building's not flooded, you just want to change the meeting room.
Yeah. Or all of a sudden the meeting room was occupied, being used by someone else.
It's a scheduling issue. It has to be there. Because if one citizen shows up, you can show up a little late, then gets taken down, they don't know where to go, now you got a problem.
Thank you.
And that goes to the legal definition of emergency as well, which is well defined by state law. What you can and cannot declare as a state is an emergency. Okay. Anything else? All right, that takes us to the end of our briefing session. We're at 6:54. We do not have time, I believe, to go into executive session. So my original statement in terms of housekeeping will take up executive session after we recess the regular agenda and go into the supplemental agenda. So you need a quick break. Please come into the city council chambers. We have several people here tonight who are going to be receiving something. So let's try and start on time. Thank you. Timestamp on that. Yeah, I got you here. Just checking, tech is good. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The timestamp is 7:01 on the 16th of April, 2024. Welcome to our City Council meeting for the City of Duncanville, City of Champions. And we're very glad to be here tonight and to look over our agenda. I think we have a pretty full agenda. One of the things of housekeeping that I would like to address, if you've noticed on the internet and what we have publicized, there's a supplemental agenda. So this is how it's going to operate. Even though the first agenda that came out, the original agenda, does have an adjournment on it, we obviate from that, and we are not going to officially adjourn the City Council meeting. I'm going to recess the City Council meeting. We will then go into executive session, and then we will adjourn from the executive session. We are going to City Council members will go into the briefing room. We will conduct the executive session. We will then open the City Council meeting in the briefing room, and we will adjourn from the briefing room. Now, there's no time stamp on that. I can't give you that. If you want to wait and hang around for that, you're more than welcome to. So that's a little different than we've actually done in the past because of this supplemental agenda, but I wanted to give you those housekeeping instructions as we move along. Okay, so we do have a pretty full agenda tonight, and we have some individuals that we're going to recognize as well. So moving on with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order. As I said, timestamp was 7:01, and please rise for the invocation given by Mr. Don McBurnett, City Council member from District 2.
Please pray with me. Great and glorious God, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you for the blessings that you've given us. Lord, please guide us, lead us, continue to walk with us, and remind us that you're there. Please bless our city, our citizens, and those involved. And we ask that in your Son's name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in pledges to our flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda. The first thing I have is the mayor's report. And I know that many of our citizens are aware of the tragedy that occurred in our city yesterday. And I want to just take a moment to express to those families that have been impacted by this event and let them know that our thoughts and our prayers are with them. And to also give great thanks to our police department, our fire department, and animal control for their immediate and professional intervention into this particular situation. And I'm going to ask your indulgence. I would like to say a short prayer for these people. Father God, we thank you, Lord, for your presence and your Holy Spirit, that you would be a comfort and a strength in this time of tragedy and grieving. We pray a blessing over these families that have been affected, Lord. Be with them, be their strength, guide them, and help them in this process of the grieving and the strength. We pray for our first responders who are involved as well, Lord, for the trauma of this event, Lord. Give them clear strength. Let them feel your presence. Let them know, Lord, that you are in control. You're a great and a mighty and an awesome and loving God. We thank you, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen. Getting back to better times, April 6th, we did have our grand opening of Kidsville and Splash Pad, which was fantastically attended. We had a great time there. In putting all those things together, kudos to our Parks and Recreation Department for all of that, and to Angela Owens, our Special Events Coordinator, who helped put all that stuff together. It was really a great, great event. And the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, those members that were there for that, did a great job as well. One of the things that some people had mentioned in terms of they always look at our city, we always have great events, and our events are always peaceful. And they said, well, we didn't see any cops out there this time. They were there. And because of the kids involved in this particular one, they were there, they were watching. And another thing that we did for the very first time, we had enough cameras, surveillance cameras installed in our city that at every moment of every time in this entire location over Splash Pad and the Kidsville, it was being looked at. So we were very careful. I wanted to give you the confidence that even though you didn't see a uniformed police officer, that we were concerned about your safety and covering that. April 8th, the eclipse was a wonderful time. And our hotels were maxed out. And in fact, one hotel that I talked to them back in January. They were booking rooms back in January. My wife and I had an opportunity to walk around and talk with many, many people. We talked to people from California, Wyoming, Illinois, Kansas, South Dakota, South Carolina, and Canada, the ones that I could remember. So it was really a great event in terms of putting the city of Duncanville smack in the middle of that totality. We're very grateful for that, and thank you for your participation as well. And my final item, just like to tell you, is that April 25th, the fourth Thursday of every month, I have been doing Coffee with the Mayor, and April 25th will be my final Coffee with the Mayor at the Rec Center from noon, from noon to 1 o'clock, and that's always a great time. So thank you for that. That concludes my mayor's report. Mr. McBurnett, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of what you said. Wonderful staff, wonderful events, hardworking, dedicated, and really they deserve applause for the efforts that they put in. And with that said, there's actually going to be an event on April 25th, the Light for Hope, and that's something that's going to happen at Lakeside Park. We've got the PIP Days coming up. That's a chance to help improve property in our city, as well as the Heart of Duncanville race is happening on Saturday the 27th. And also on April 30th is the first annual Lad Fest. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other city council member reports? Seeing none, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll keep it very brief. Thank you for recognizing the staff. The staff has certainly been dealing with quite a few different issues over this past week, a lot of challenges. And you also mentioned our first responders, both police and fire, and they certainly have been going through a lot, and they've been receiving a lot of support from the community as they've been out and about. And so just thank you to everyone for that. Additionally, I want to thank the public for your patience with us. The staff very much wants to serve you as efficiently as possible, and we've been dealing with some technology issues here at City Hall that have been hampering our efforts in efficiently serving you, both phones as well as internet, and we're working through those challenges, and so we appreciate your patience with us as we correct that. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. That concludes our reports. Moving into item number 2 on the agenda, proclamations and presentations. And I will be taking care of items A, B, and C. So the first one is the Best Southwest presentation for a scholarship to a very rewarding, or an individual who has earned what we're going to be giving to him tonight. So, once a year, the city council has an opportunity to make a scholarship presentation to an individual deemed responsible, respectful, and deserving of a very special scholarship. Now, the Best Southwest Partnership is represented here by Amanda Skinner, President and Chairman of the Board for, is that right?
President, Executive Director.
Got it. What she said, President and Executive Director of the Best Southwest Partnership. And here also with me is Chad McCurdy. Chad McCurdy is a council member for the city of Cedar Hill, but he's also the chair of the Education Committee for the Best Southwest Partnership. So the Best Southwest Partnership publicizes the possibility of awarding scholarships through the independent school districts, and then it is up to each individual council to select one individual. And it is my great honor and privilege tonight to present a $1,000 scholarship to Mr. Kevin Vega of Duncanville High School. Not yet. So, why? I think it's important to hear in his own words how this young man feels about his future. Let me read you some of the things that he wrote about himself. One of the most important significant impacts of construction industries, he wants to go into construction, is their, listen to this, their contribution to infrastructure development. Public Works, take a road and get an application to this guy right now. Contribution to infrastructure development, roads, bridges, public transportation, people across the world contributing to the growth of local and national economies. This is his words. He wants to gain experience in project management. And he wants to be a senior project manager for a national company. He's going to get a bachelor's degree in construction science from Texas A&M, and he has a dream of owning and managing his own construction company. And he will then pursue a Master of Science in Construction Management. In the summer, this past summer, he was able to be participating in the STEM program for Duncanville High School, in which he guided some young people in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. What he said about this. This program provided me with a unique opportunity to share my insights and knowledge about architecture with younger kids passionate about being in STEM. I want to conclude with this. This one activity, I was able to teach them the Bubble program method, a tool designed in the initial planning stages of architectural design. This young man, give it to him. You want your family up here? Yep. Papa, we will get you pictures later. Put that back. Come on.
We won't replace this check with the real one. Oh, you want one more photo? Okay.
Hi, I'm just really thankful for this opportunity, and I'm grateful that this will help me follow my dreams and hopefully becoming a construction management.
Depending on it.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a proclamation for the National Day of Prayer. And for this, I would like to call up Chris Gutierrez. He is the senior pastor for Arise Church. And Chris, Pastor Chris, Chris, has been a close friend of mine and somebody I rely on, I go to. And he is the organizer for the National Day of Prayer for what, past 2-3 years? 8 years. 8 years. So, when I called on Chris, I said, can you please come here tonight to receive the National Day of Prayer proclamation? He was most able to do that. So come on up here with me, Chris. Whereas, from the first gatherings of our founding fathers, elected officials have prayed and asked those they serve and represent to join them in prayer. The authors of our Declaration of Independence wrote, quote, "The representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled appealing to the supreme judge of the world," end quote. This is carried on to the present day in presidential proclamations asking for God's continued guidance, mercy, and protection. A National Day of Prayer was declared by the resolution in Congress in 1775, made a public law in 1952 by a Congressional Joint Resolution, and made public law 100-307 by President Reagan in 1988. It directs the President of the United States to set aside and proclaim the first Thursday of May and annually as the National Day of Prayer. In every state across America, the observance of the National Day of Prayer will be held on Thursday, May 2nd of 2024, with the theme, quote, "Lift up the word, light up the world," based on verses found in 2 Samuel chapter 22, verses 29 through 31. Quote, "For you are my lamp, O Lord, and my God lightens my darkness. This God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord proves true. He is a shield for all those who take refuge in him," end quote. Unified prayer is mobilized across America every first Thursday in May and on the National Day of Prayer as neighbors come together to join their hearts and voices in reading sacred scriptures and attending services to seek God for the city and country where we live, learn, work, worship, serve, and desire all to thrive. We express our faith and exercise our freedom in personal prayer and public gatherings across America with fervent praise, repentance, love, and humble intercession for our neighbor, for the city of Duncanville, and our nation, holding to God's promises that the Lord hears and avails much as he answers the faith-filled prayers of his people. Therefore, I, Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, do hereby declare upon all citizens of Duncanville and all civic and community organizations to observe May 2nd, 2024 as the National Day of Prayer. Chris, thank you for undertaking again and organizing this. We thank you and bless you.
I just repeat what I say every year. I'm grateful to live in a city that values and believes in the power of prayer. I'm grateful for leadership, especially to you, Mayor Gordon. Mayor Gordon, you've been one of the biggest advocates for the National Day of Prayer here in Duncanville, even against opposition. And I'm grateful for you, Mayor, and grateful to serve alongside you in this. And hope to see you all May 2nd if you're available.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is my privilege and honor as well to recognize a couple of individuals. And just going back in time, one of the things that I started as mayor was to recognize individuals in our city, City of Champions, to recognize champions of our city or a champion of the city. So at this time, I would like to recognize champions of the city, Richard and Chris Dodge. Come up here. Citation is up there. I will read it as well. Residents for over 35 years, Richard and Chris Dodge are champions for creating and implementing little free libraries throughout the city. Chris taught in the Duncanville ISD for 23 years, and Richard was a detective on the Dallas Police Force. Richard built the first one in 2016, and Chris planted it at Trinity United Methodist Church. From that point forward, the Duncanville High School architecture class designed them, and the shop class built them. The first libraries were stocked with books donated by school librarians, retired teachers, and a purchasing grant by Delta Kappa Gamma Teachers Society. Today, the books are donated by citizens, local businesses and organizations, and Duncanville ISD schools. Assisted by stewards Debbie Harrington, Trish Williams, Kim Sanford, and Terry Schultz, they check the libraries 2 to 3 times weekly. Richard does the true heavy lifting for Chris, carrying boxes of books and rebuilding the libraries. In cooperation with the city, there are now 11 Little Free Libraries available for our citizens. For making a substantive and sustainable positive impact in our city, Richard and Chris Dodge are hereby recognized as champions of the city. As mayor of the city of Duncanville, I ask our residents to join me in congratulating them on this memorable occasion. And if you have your set, if you have your people, come up for a photo too. Okay, here you go.
How long do I have? I want to thank all that have said yes and made Little Free Libraries happen here in Duncanville. Literally no one said no. Borrowing from literature, I was living the Little Red Hen's best day over and over. No one said, not I. Everyone said, I will. And they did. What a can-do little town we are. Those of us who are stewards get our thanks in the park when we see people taking and sharing books. We're just a bunch of reading teachers who want kids to keep reading and for adults to enjoy sharing books with each other. Confidential to whoever put the book on installing drywall in the Smith Elementary Little Free Library. The school only goes to 4th grade. Who said I will? Rotary, Lions, ESA, every group that I talked to in town. They gave us money, they gave us books, they gave us encouragement. My husband and hero, Richard Dodge, who built the first one and has continued to repair and rebuild the libraries, move boxes, books from school to library to car to shed. People at my Trinity United Methodist Church collected money to buy our first books. Yay, Trinity. And have continued to donate their own. Tia Simmons, who was the principal at the high school, introduced me to Tammy Grinnell, the shop teacher, who also Marissa Alsabak, who was the architecture teacher. The kids in the art classes painted the first ones. City people, Greg Contreras was our first yes. It was very encouraging. He said that his family was big readers. You just put those little libraries wherever. So we did. And Bart Stevenson and Tim Hamilton at the parks said, put a little piece of paint on the grass where you want it, and we'll plant the pole there. And they did. Richard took the boxes and attached them, and times 12. Sherwin-Williams donated paint. DeFord's, we don't usually do this, donated wood. The libraries at schools were painted by their art teachers and kept by the librarians. Those were really important when the schools closed for the pandemic. Some schools give us their poll books at the end of the year, which has become a trusted source. Thank you to our local Teacher Society chapter who offered the grants. Thank you to DARS retired teachers for encouraging us all to donate our books and supporting Little Free Libraries. Thank you for Lois. Ann Perry, who along with her artist friends helped start Duncanville Rocks. If you find a rock, post it on Facebook. Thank you to our substitutes when we are out of town. Lori and Betty and Lois and the Myers, the Cheshires, And basically, if you're in my neighborhood, you're not safe. That includes you, District 5. Thank you to random people who gave us money. You know who you are. So what's the moral to the little red hen? Maybe if we all help each other, we would all be able to benefit more.
And in addition to the certificate, I'd like to present you with a medallion from the city of Duncanville. And do you have anybody like you to come up with have pictures with? Anybody that would like to come up to be with Chris and Richard, please come up now so we can get a picture.
Stewards, church, individuals.
The next presentation we have is by Councilmember Mr. Don McBurdette.
The proclamation reads, whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has legal standing and protections that go along with it, and whereas crime victim rights acts passed here in Texas and at federal level guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate in the criminal justice process, and whereas victim service providers, advocates, law enforcement officers, attorneys, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice for enforcing these rights. And whereas victim service providers and allied professionals can reach more victims through innovative, trauma-informed programs such as telehealth services and multidisciplinary teams. And whereas victim service providers and allied professionals can increase access to victim services and compensation areas that have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by inequality by implementing culturally responsive services. And whereas equity and inclusion are fundamental prerequisites to survivor care and survivor-led services that provide victims with opportunities to share their experiences and essential blueprints for support. And whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit, ensuring that accessible, appropriate, and trauma-informed services are offered to all citizens of crime. And whereas the city is hereby dedicated to helping crime survivors find their justice by enforcing victims' rights, expanding access to services, and ensuring equity and inclusion for all. Now, therefore, on the behalf of Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, I do here proclaim the week of April 21st through 27th, 2024 as Crime Victims Week, reaffirming the City of Duncanville's commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime during Victims' Crimes Rights Week and throughout the year, and expressing our sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice professionals who are committed to improving our response to all victims so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. And with us today, we have Kristen Downs and also Talia Lopez with the Victims Advocate.
Hello. So the theme for this year is how would you help? So the police department has taken it upon themselves to do a water lantern ceremony. So on Thursday, April 25th at 6 p.m., we would like everybody to join us at Lakeside Park at 6 p.m. If you have lost somebody through crime victim, we will give you a lantern. You will get to decorate it, personalize it how you want, and then when the sun starts to set, we're going to release, with the help of our Parks and Rec staff, your lantern into Lakeside Park. So we want to light up the park. I think that would be very beautiful. This is going to be our first event, and we look at making it an annual event. So if you could come out and help support and show, and then maybe we can grow this with our Tri-Cities. So thank you.
Photo. Thank you. The next presentation is the recognition of Earth Day, presented by Councilmember D. Gooden.
Proclamation. Whereas the global community continues to face extraordinary challenges such as environmental degradation, extreme weather events, resource shortages, and global health issues, and whereas the City of Duncanville recognizes the important role that our natural environment plays in maintaining a healthy society and strong economy, and whereas all people, regardless of race, gender, income, or geography, have a right to a healthy, sustainable environment with economic growth and opportunity. And whereas we are all caretakers of our planet and have an obligation to combat climate change and environmental degradation to preserve the Earth's beauty and resources. And whereas Earth Day is a time to celebrate the goal of inspiring environmental awareness and encouraging the conservation, protection, and appreciation of our natural resources. And whereas a sustainable environment can be achieved on an individual level through educational efforts, public policy, and it is the responsibility of each of us to safeguard our environment and resources. Now, therefore, Mayor Barry L. Gordon, Mayor of the City of Duncanville, Texas, do hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2024 as Earth Day in Duncanville, and encourage all businesses, institutions, and individuals to celebrate the Earth through one's own actions and in support of the city ongoing sustainability initiatives. Tyler Aging, would you like to say something?
Thank you for nominating this proclamation. I would like to give a special shout out to the Keep Duncanville Beautiful Board, who has put together multiple initiatives. We'll be getting out some PSAs on their behalf to the city to just notify everyone of how they can keep loving the earth. So we appreciate y'all.
Thank you. That concludes our proclamations and presentations for this evening. Moving on to item number 3 on our agenda is citizens' input. In-person citizen comments will be heard during the regular session in keeping with the City Council Rules of Procedure adopted October 18th of 2022. Electronic mail comments will no longer be read aloud. Paper copies will be provided to City Council at that time. We do not have any written comments to be given to us at this point. Pursuant to Section 551.007 of the Texas Government Code, any member of the public has the opportunity to address the City Council concerning any matter of public business or any posted agenda item. However, the Act prohibits the City Council from deliberating any issues not on the public agenda, and such non-agenda issues may be referred to City staff for research and any future action. All persons addressing are subject to council rules and procedures adopted by law. And one of the policies that we have in our city, individuals are permitted to have 2 minutes to speak. There is a timer on the lectern, and city secretary times that as well. Another item that we need to address is this in the middle of election season, and electioneering is not permitted. So we request any individual that is thinking about talking about anything to do with the election cycle, any individual involved in those elections, please refrain from doing so, and that will help me not having to stop you. So with that, the first person I'm going to call forward, the cards I have in the order, Erica Browning. And if you please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Erica Browning, 442 East Cherry Street. I watched much of the budget workshop last week. As we all know, our infrastructure is aging. That was apparent also last week when a water main broke under our street and the entire area was heaving with water pouring out through cracks in the pavement, threatening to flood my next-door neighbor's house. A couple of nights later, over 1,500 homes in our area were without electricity. This has happened before when an old transformer finally gives up. Our drainage and utility easements, more fondly known as creeks, have inadequate or non-existent erosion control measures in place. We also regularly smell sewage flowing in the creek on our property. I lived 4 years in a country where infrastructure was unreliable due to decades of war, corruption, and neglect. I'll tell you, I'm starting to wonder if we're headed for the same standard of living. Even so, I will not be advocating for an increase in property taxes. This city has creative ways of acquiring and appropriating money, and I expect you to use this skill during this budget cycle. We received millions of dollars in ARPA funds that were spent on things that I would call unnecessary, even frivolous, given the real issues we face. Although there were guidelines on how it could be used, creative management would have reallocated existing funds and applied ARPA in acceptable categories instead of thinking of it as a shopping spree. I mean, at the recent budget workshop, one presenter was explaining that if the increased tax is for debt, there's no limit to stay under, and you can avoid asking the public to vote for a tax increase. Unlimited increase without asking those it affects. So I know you can get creative. We can't afford to pay more in property tax. The assessor thinks my property value went up over $22,000 in 1 year. That's a tax increase of $400 with a homestead exemption. Renters don't even have that protection, and their rent will go up accordingly. So please find ways to keep our city functional without taxing us so much we can't afford to stay and enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Bridges.
Hello, Emily Bridges, 418 Oleander, 75137. I just want to echo what y'all have already said about the Parks and Rec Board. All the events, we went to every single one of them. We loved them. My kids enjoyed every bit of it. People were playing at Splash Pad on the way to council tonight. Love it. I'm in support of that. I also want to give credit to, can I say a city staffer's name? Or is that, no. Okay. She has done a wonderful job. I think we all know who I'm talking about. Again, on Acton Avenue, the flooding that I was discussing before has been completed, and it's wonderful. It's already rained since, no flooding. Good job on that. And also, Lad Fest is coming, April 30th. I hope we see everybody there and come and have a good time. Thank you. Watch us raise money like we said we were going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our citizens' input. Moving on to item 4 on the consent agenda. City Secretary, if you please read the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 4A, consider a resolution authorizing the city manager to officially register the city of Duncanville for the designation of sister city with the city of Montestello de Sigliano, Italy, through Sister City International, at such date as may be appropriate, and to coordinate the official recognition with the appropriate elected officials and representatives of Duncanville and Montestello de Sigliano, and providing for an effective date. Item 4B, Council to consider a resolution approving an agreement with Matrix Consulting Group to conduct a public safety operational analysis for police and fire with an expenditure amount not to exceed $134,900, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents required for such agreement and establishing an effective date. Item 4C, consider a resolution approving a contract with Witham Smith and Brown PC in an expenditure amount not to exceed $80,000. Item 4D, consider an ordinance amending the FY 2023-2024 budget by appropriating fleet replacement fund balance and amending expenditures for fleet replacements. Item 4E, consider a resolution authorizing the award of RFB 24-0015 Oriole Boulevard sidewalk improvements to Mecca Construction LLC through the city's competitive bid process for sidewalk improvements on Oriole Boulevard with a contract amount of $487,834.45 and an additional appropriation of $48,783.45 as a project contingency for a total amount not to exceed $536,617.90. Item 4F, consider a resolution authorizing an agreement with Environmental Group Southwest for grease and odor bioremediation products via sole source procurement for a one-year term with the option to renew for up to 4 additional one-year terms for a total contract amount not to exceed $125,000 over the 5 years, subject to exercise of a contract renewal and city council appropriation. Item 4G, consider a resolution awarding a bid and authorizing a cooperative purchasing agreement with Kirkco Inc. for pavement, crack, and joint sealing services through City of Grand Prairie Contract 21186R3 in an estimated expenditure amount of $150,000. Item 4H, consider a resolution awarding RFP 24-0016 traffic operation, construction, and maintenance services to Unix LLC through the city's cooperative proposal process for traffic infrastructure construction and maintenance services and authorizing a contract for a 3-year term with the option to renew for up to 3 additional one-year terms for a total contract amount not to exceed $3,576,505 over the 6 years, subject to the exercise of a contract renewal and city council appropriation. Item 4I, consider a resolution authorizing the procurement of a 2024 Ford F-550 brush fighter small brush truck from Dayco Fire Equipment through Board Cooperative Purchasing Agreement 651-21 in the expenditure amount of $236,789, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary documents and providing for an effective date. Item 4J, consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 vehicles that will be used in support of the Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division with an amount not to exceed $105,000.
Thank you, City Secretary. Mr. McBurnett.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Mr. McBurnett, second by Mr. Contreras. Council, please vote. Consent items unanimously approved. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, items for individual consideration. We have not yet had executive session, so we're going to skip over item number 5A. Moving on to item number 5B. Consider a resolution authorizing approval of incentive grants by the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation to DW Cedar Ridge LLC, an amount not to exceed $103,747 for buildings located at 102 to 1110 North Cedar Ridge, Duncanville 75116. Mr. Brewer, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
Go ahead and lift it. Yeah. Or just lift that mic up to you, Jeremiah. There you go. We're working. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Jeremiah Brewer, Economic Development Coordinator. Tonight we have an additional application for incentives from Due West, DW Cedar Ridge. Due West, we've been working with them over the past year and a half or year. We met them at ICSC Las Vegas 2023, and they've been working with us for any revitalization opportunities for the city of Duncanville. Previously, an application was approved for them on September 19th for an incentive grants totaling $267,153 for their shopping center that they purchased at 102 to 110 North Cedar Ridge. And tonight they're here for this is their previous incentive asking general information. And tonight they're asking for an additional $103,747 to accommodate additional tenant improvement and leasing commission allowances due to the loss of Liberty Tax tenant that was in the shopping center previously. And these allowances would help with enlargement of grease traps and adding pickup and drive-through capabilities to their location. And this is specifically at the 108 North Cedar Ridge Drive portion of that. Here's some of the impact metrics. As you can see, the DCDC contributions, their total investment, including the purchase price, capital investment, would be $1,337,134. The appraised value on DCAD was $752,970, and with the property tax we're getting from that would be $4,897.77. As you can see, the purchase increase from the appraised property tax to the city, and then the enhanced property tax to the city would be a 63% increase just from their current improvements. And then the sales tax impact evaluation at estimated yearly sales for 5,800 square feet of retail, and the restaurant at 125 sales per square foot would be $725,000, and then the city sales tax revenue of $14,500, and this over a 10-year period to be $145,000. This is the current progress of their renovations to the shopping center. And I believe the representative is here. And I guess another detail, this is the disbursement of the grant will be contingent on the submission of a bona fide lease agreement for the new tenant, which is in the resolution and will be also in the development agreement.
Okay. And you have a representative from Due West here. And please introduce yourself.
Councilman, Councilwoman, this is Will Walters. I'm with Due West. DW Cedar Ridge is the owner of the building here on the corner of Center in Cedar Ridge Drive. And first of all, I want to just say I very much appreciate the partnership we've had with the EDC thus far. I think we are a perfect test case for what the EDC is in place to do, and I think it's been successful to date. We haven't refilled it with first class A tenants yet, but that's our goal. But I think I've mentioned this to some of you guys out of session a few times. With prices you need to pay for properties that have not been updated or had any capital investment whatsoever over 20, 30, 40 years sometimes, I think in this case. And then the price that the seller is requiring you to pay to purchase the building from him, it really leaves you without much, extra capital improvement budget to really do what you need to do to a building to bring it to its highest and best potential. So oftentimes what happens is you get, lipstick on a pig type renovations, repainting, just kind of a spruce up, and maybe you marginally improve the tenants that are in the building. Candidly, with the price that we paid for this, we closed on this before we had even engaged with the EDC, and that wasn't in our purview at the time. And with the budget and with our requirements to fiduciary investors that were in this building, it was going to be we were going to do the best we could with the limited budget we had. We were going to repaint it. We were going to take the green awning that had been there for 40 years off, and do our best to improve the tenancy and bring in some first-class restaurants and things that would really serve the community well. We've previously been approved so that was the plan, and we were approved for the initial capital funding to improve the exterior of the building, which we are 90% done with. I hope you guys have driven by and seen it so far. I think it looks great. We've added lots of landscaping. We've added benches in the front, and we've completely updated the facade. We've replaced the roof. It's a brand new roof. We've put new HVAC units up top of the building as well. So this particular funding request would be for the interior of the building to help. When you need to attract the best tenants, they require large tenant incentive packages, and particularly restaurants. Restaurant equipment is expensive. On the side on Center Street, if we were eventually to put a drive-through window, we would have to completely reshape that side of the building. And obviously construction costs have gone up. He mentioned Liberty Tax. They decided to leave the building maybe 4 months after we had purchased it. We had hoped to keep them longer term. That wasn't to be. We're optimistic that we will bring a tenant into that space as well that would really elevate the building and serve the community. And I think, such an important corner for the city. Our interests are aligned here. We are so excited for the progress we've made, and we're excited to fulfill the potential of this building. It's going to take a little bit more time, a little bit more money, but we're going to get there. So.
I appreciate that very much. Mr. Contreras, you have a comment, sir?
Yes, it looks great. I've watched the work from beginning to where it's at now, and what a difference. So thank you for that improvement. I see in one of the artist renderings, I would assume this is just a make-believe but hopeful restaurant location one day. Does that mean in any way that the dry cleaners is going to be moving from the building?
We're in ongoing talks with her. I've spoken with her many times in her space. I think she was never really planning to stay long term. I think she was sort of in her last renewal of the lease, that she had been there a long time and planned to retire. That there might be a mutual agreement between us to expedite that. We're trying to work that out right now. Nothing has been agreed to formally with her. But I think her intentions were not to stay much more than a couple more years. And so we're still ongoing in talks with her.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Gooden.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to see you in our city, and I'm glad to see you working on this project. There was a restaurant that was at the end of the building that I would frequently place an order, and the AC unit was always out. Mm-hmm. So in doing these renovations, I'm happy to see that you're coming in and making the improvements that you are. It has been a tremendous change. I received a compliment for you today, a citizen called to say how impressed they are with the improvements you made there on the building, and I just wanted to share that with you. You're doing a great job, so thank you so much. You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. McBurnett, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Walters, thank you for being here. This is the stuff that our citizens are asking for. It's like, can we get better restaurants? Can we get better things like that? The transformation's been wonderful. And Mayor, if there's not any other comments, I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. McBurnett. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a second by Councilmember Gooden. Council, please vote. Unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
City Secretary, were those votes up there long enough for broadcasting to capture? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to item number C. Consider a resolution authorizing approval of incentive grants by the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation to DS0910 Smoothies LLC in an amount not to exceed $163,000 for a building located at 103 North Cedar Ridge Drive, Suite 100, Duncanville, Texas 75116. Mr. Brewer, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. DS090 Smoothies LLC, or DBA Smoothie King, will be leasing the property at 103 North Cedar Ridge, Suite 100. The tenant space is 1,500 square feet. They've currently invested $350,000 into the property. The project scoped, or they're asking their application, is $8,000 for paying incentives, $20,000 for landscaping, and $90,000 for demolition, though this is mainly for the installation of a drive-through, for a grand total incentive grant ask of $163,000. I couldn't get the DCAT appraised value. I couldn't get for that specific suite, but for the building itself, it's around $600,000. And obviously, with their total investment of $350,000, it'll be a fairly substantial city property tax boost. But for the estimated yearly sales for the 1,500 square feet of retail and restaurant at $125 a square foot, it's $187,000 and $70,500, and a city sales tax revenue of $3,750, and then that over a 10-year period is $37,750. These are some renderings of. These will be like some electronic display signs that'll be in the building. That's but really these are just for the drive-through signs and a display. I don't believe the representative from Smoothie King was able to be here tonight, and but I will be able to answer any questions. I just believe I should be able to answer some questions you do have about the project.
Thank you, Mr. Brewer. Mr. Contreras?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually pleased that we have a Smoothie King versus a daiquiri operation. I know they have a place for those, but that was never my my number one idea for this location. So this is something that seems to come our way, and I'm excited about that. The only question I had was in this category, and pardon me for the, I don't know much about demo redevelopment and reuse grant. If that's something we've discussed in the past, I apologize, but I'm just not familiar with the whole category. You have the program specifications here, but can you kind of wrap it up in a nutshell? Because this is the bulk of what they're asking for is $90,000 for this. So while I probably don't have a problem with that, I would like to hear, and especially for the public, your interpretation of the elements on this project that qualify under the demo, redevelopment, and reuse grant.
I'd say I guess for the reuse portion and redevelopment, obviously the building was initially designed, well, I guess in the nature of the building for a tenant space, but I guess to reimagine the space as it clearly in terms of also an exterior improvement and for the overall, I guess, in terms of the location and its proximity to additional shopping centers and the space that it currently has being with a lot of that parking lot space kind of not being maybe optimized in its entirety. The demolition and reuse and redevelopment grant, I guess, focuses to target other ways that the DCC can assist in reimagining these spaces, and then obviously a drive-through with especially with how COVID and Uber and these other fast food initiatives or how businesses are trying to capture that, I believe fits what we're trying to do and what Smoothie King's for Smoothie Bean to have the greatest success to have that component and as a experience in business that we would like to have in town. And I believe that would answers kind of the nature of what that development and reuse grant is trying to accomplish. Obviously, for certain EDC grants, specific improvements like like personalized or interior improvements would not necessarily qualify, but a drive-through would be. Obviously, if another tenant or someone else comes through, that they may have a different experience or imagined experience for it, but it's something that will stay with that space. So another tenant, if Smoothie King were to leave, they would have a chance to utilize that, and it would still kind of capture what a modern restaurant tenant is looking for.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Gooden.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I would like to just basically make a comment and a compliment. Earlier today, when I saw this item, I was concerned that we issued an incentive grant to the previous possible tenant that never did open up, but sent an email to staff. And Mr. Brewer, thank you so much for your diligence in doing the research. You and Miss Cynthia, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for researching and helping me with the question to understand, no, we did not issue an incentive grant to the previous tenant who ended up leaving our city. It was to the developer to help improve the building and make it possible for tenants to be able to utilize it. And the drive-through was a part of that grant in the developer package that was awarded previously, correct?
Let me see.
For the purposes of COVID during that time.
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
So thank you so much for your help. I do appreciate you taking the time at the last minute when I asked, and you researched and got it back to me in a timely manner. So, City Manager, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And I do have copies of the specific resolution that references the grant, if any of the City Council or the members you want to see it as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coons.
Thank you, Mayor. Just back to Councilman Contreras' question about the demo and redevelopment reuse grant. Were there I couldn't find any renderings of what, because I know as part of the application they have to submit the renderings, right? And so I was just wondering if there were any provided that we didn't receive.
These are the renderings that were taken from the bids. I don't believe the bids weren't attached on that specific application that was attached to the resolution. And then, fortunately, I wasn't able to print out a copy of the bids, but these are all of the renderings that were on there for each of the bids.
Okay, so I'm going to be in favor of this anyways, but I know it's part of the application that they're required to submit that, so that should exist somewhere. And so, City Manager, if we could get a copy of it at some point.
Mr. Fincher, do you have a comment or just consent? Yes.
I was just going to say yes. Jeremiah, I believe at our DC-EDC meetings they did have some renderings, so we can make sure that you get those. Mr. Blacknail was there and spoke very passionately about how excited he is to bring this to Duncanville. He owns other Smoothie Kings that have been that he feels like have worked out very well, and he's really excited about this particular location, and I believe has a connection to Duncanville, so he's super excited about it. So.
Mr. McBurnett did mention that he is a Duncanville graduate. Just wanted to make that public. Okay. And just a final comment on this. This and the prior one are both reimbursable grants. So it's understood that no money comes forward until the individuals provide proof of the expenditure of the dollar amounts. Reimbursable. It's very important. Okay, Mr. Kuntz, again.
Wanted to move to approve.
Okay, motion to approve
Second.
by Mr. Kuntz, second by Mr. Contreras, excuse me, please vote. And leave it on for just a moment. Unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Captured? Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on to staff and board reports. Item number 6A, we received the Duncanville Fire Department quarterly report. Interim Fire Chief, Mr. Greg Chase.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager. It's your favorite time of the evening. It's the last item on the agenda. So there's a large individual at the back of the room that told me to hurry this up. So I will do that. So we are excited to announce, if you haven't met Raquel Payne, she is now our regional emergency management specialist. She's on a part-time basis, and she began her employment with the region back in December. She and Lauren Sanchez have hit the ground running, and we'll get into that later in the presentation about all the accomplishments they have made. Currently, we have 5 vacancies in the department. Next slide needs to be updated. We do have a date of May the 11th for our new hire exam. We'll be having a physical agility right after that, and if anybody would like to come down and observe that, you're more than welcome to. If you'd like to participate, we can hook you up. So, no.
I believe I'm age excluded.
We can exclude you as well. Our firefighter EMT Mason Quinn, he did graduate paramedic school. He's been employed since February of last year. He's completed all of his training. He's currently on shift now and fully functioning as a paramedic, and he began that on March the 21st. We have another individual, Preston Matthews. He's currently in paramedic school at Cedar Valley College, and he should be graduating in July, so we look forward to getting them on shift. Recently, back on March the 31st, Battalion Chief Robert Gideon retired. He had 35 years of service to the citizens of Duncanville and was an outstanding individual. He was a extremely competent incident commander, well loved by all members of the department, great guy, and we wish him the best of luck in his retirement. There you go. We also attended, Chief Rob Hancock and Engineer Reed Sherman attended the TEACS Leadership Symposium down in San Marcos. That is a symposium that brings in speakers from all across the state and sometimes outside of the, outside the state of Texas, with keynote speakers that do an extremely good job from topics ranging from tactical initiatives up to workers' compensation and everything in between. Lacey Freeman attended the Texas Fire Chiefs Fire Administration Conference. That's where a conference that all of the administration personnel attend. They do a lot of roundtable. They have speakers that cover everything from budgeting to workers' comp to timekeeping and the like. So very good conference for them. I also attended at the same time the Second in Command Conference. This gathers the individuals that are at the rank right below the fire chief. We make good contacts with each other. We discuss many of the issues that are affecting each and every fire department across the state. What comes out of that is basically a big folder that we can get to online. We have a question, we get an immediate answer. If we need a policy or SOG, there's no better way than to steal it from somebody else. Battalion Chief Hancock, he is in charge of our training and keeps all of our training records that we have to turn in to the state each and every year. So he attended the Texas Association of Fire Educators Conference down in Corpus Christi. We also received our new Horton ambulance that, thank you, council, that you approved at the time, interim city manager Robert Brown approved back last September. We took delivery of it, I believe it was in December or January, a few other things to do to it with the radio system and the cot and the loading system on that, and it was placed into service on March the 19th of this year, and the crews absolutely love it. Firefighter paramedic Evan Barger was part of a regional team that was deployed through the Texas Intrastate Fire Mutual Aid System, better known as TIFMAS. He deployed out with a captain from DeSoto, a driver from DeSoto, and another Lancaster firefighter paramedic. They left DeSoto on the morning of February the 28th, and they arrived back in the Metroplex on March the 10th. They went up to Fritz, Texas. In that area, they provided structural protection to that area. They were not, although the picture shows them appearing to be out on the wildfire, they are protecting houses from the wildfire. There are different categories of deployment, whether it be wildland paramedic units, wildland firefighting, or an all-hazard team, which that's what they do. They are out there protecting the structures and providing medical assistance to that area. So with this slide, all I have to do is say, yay, we got it done. The new fire station opened up. They started running out of it on March the 26th. We had several guys hang over, and a couple of the crews, they got it all, their stuff moved in the first day, and we continued that through all 3 shifts. They began running out of that probably the afternoon of March the 26th. If you have not been by there, please go by. It is a beautiful building, and if you've never been by it at night, please drive by it at night. I am extremely proud of how this thing looks and operates. We'll be having a grand opening on May the 3rd at 2 o'clock. Everyone is invited. We will have some light refreshments. We'll have a little ceremony, and then we'll be giving tours. So please come out and join us to celebrate this fine building. And thank you to the citizens of Duncanville for the bond election.
If I might interrupt you, Chief, the ELC is now moved in here. Is that correct?
We are moved, for the most part, we are moved in.
For the most part? Okay.
Yes.
And that's moving from 271 over to 272?
The station
from
on
272 to 271.
Correct. Yes. Lauren and Raquel are still, actually Raquel was up there working out of there today, but their offices right now are still at the Fire Administration on Main Street. But we do go up there and use that we've used it several times for training for other city departments. We've used it for some debriefings after several bad calls or incidents that we've had, including the one yesterday. That facility has worked out very well for those things already. So
thank you.
So moving on to the emergency management, Lauren did a cold weather preparedness back obviously when it was cold, and that's changed quite a bit so far. She also did a presentation on Family Assistance Center operations, which assists family after a incident, such as like the Fieldhouse shooting. She did a Family Assistance Center there, and it offers everything from mental health to, other items a family may need after a tragedy. So she did that for the Texas Department of State Health Services in South Texas. She has made about 5 different presentations along with she and Chief Stogner concerning the Fieldhouse shooting and the aftermath of that and everything involved with child reunification and the family assistance. So they have done a wonderful job with their speaking and engagements. She's also participated in the Regional Chemical Emergency Surge Tabletop Exercise, which I'm sure all the council members know exactly what that is, and there'll be a test after this to determine your knowledge on it. But that is when we have a chemical spill or some type of chemical in the air. You have a large amount of patients go to the emergency room or to the hospitals, and how all of that is going to operate, because not everyone can go to one hospital. They're going to have to be separated, and you have to plan for that. She was a big help with the solar eclipse preparation. That's one of the few events that I've actually been out and a part of out in the park. I'm typically inside. I don't believe I've seen any fireworks for the last 7 years, but that was, as a 30-year employee of the city, that was a very nice event. So I congratulate everybody that was involved with that, and Lauren brought everyone together to plan that, and she did a fabulous job. Lauren and Raquel also did a block party for Cedar Hill for emergency preparedness, which currently running concurrent with this meeting, she's over at the Senior Center doing an emergency preparedness seminar for the citizens of Duncanville and the surrounding area. Which we did talk about not scheduling on a city council night so y'all could attend. So she took note of that. She's also we met with the Dallas County Emergency Management Team, all of the emergency managers for Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Duncanville, and Lancaster. We got to get some insight on the county's operations and how they function. Lauren also planned and coordinated, along with Raquel, a regional active shooter response. We did this several years ago at the high school. This was held on March the 6th and 7th at the International Body of Christ Church off of Cockrell Hill. We had over 450 participants from all over DFW. It was a huge success. There are a lot of lessons learned from other incidents that took place across the country. One of the speakers was the retired Las Vegas fire chief. He discussed all of the logistical issues with the country music festival shooting that occurred there last year before. We also had Lauren and Chief Stogner speak of the Fieldhouse shooting, and there was multiple speakers, and it's a wonderful event to go and learn from.
If I may interrupt, I was present for that briefing from Chief Stogner and from Lauren Sanchez, a professional demonstration of expertise in terms of shooter response and how this city responded well to Uvalde and other, putting what we did versus Uvalde and putting that in perspective. I think everybody was quite impressed with what we did.
Yes.
So to Lauren and Chief Stogner for that, making those presentations, very, very well done.
And just so you'll know, they have made this presentation several times, all the way from Galveston. I think they went out to San Angelo or somewhere out that way. They've done it several times across the state. So, those agencies have heard from Duncanville employees. So we are reaching out to them.
Thank you.
So our performance indicators are total calls for the service for the quarter at 1,804, which puts us a little above average or a little more than what we'd like to see. We're about 20 calls a day, for a little bit over 20 calls a day, and our break point is at 20. So hopefully the Matrix consulting firm will look at that and have that addressed. 70% of those calls be EMS related, which is typical. We're in about 1,200. We did have almost 140 inspections completed by our fire prevention department. So, any questions?
Any questions, council? We are grateful, thankful to all of you in our fire department. We'd be remiss in not aggregating you and our police department together as our first responders to serious events that occur in our city. And we know that looking at those statistics, those are statistics of people. That looking back at that data, every one of those pieces of data represent a person or persons that needed help. So we thank you for that, for your persistence, dedication, and loyalty to our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
That brings us to the end of our normal city council meeting, and we are going to recess this, but to do it properly, I'm going to read into the record what we're going to be discussing in executive session, and that will be pursuant to section 551.054 of the Texas Government Code, the City Council of the City of Duncanville shall conduct an emergency meeting supplementing April 16, 2024 agenda due to the failure of the city's communication and IT systems, which poses threat to citizens' health, safety, and welfare, including but not limited to the fire department, police department, and public safety and potable water system. So with that, we are going to recess the city council meeting. City council members will move into the briefing room. We will conduct the executive session there. We will adjourn the entire city council meeting from the briefing room. Thank you for your consideration and understanding. Timestamp on the recess, City Secretary 8:19. Thank you.
Steve Green, we gotta make sure that we're broadcasting or recording. Very good. All right, we are reconvening our city council session for April the 16th of 2024. Timestamp city secretary is 9:56. Going to our agenda, item 5A, take any necessary action as a result of executive session. There is no action to be taken as a result of executive session. With the conclusion of all of our business for this evening, we are adjourning our city council meeting. The timestamp is 9:56. Thank you very much.